The stars stretched wide in the endless black. To the eye, the void looked calm, but in the heart of the Galactic Empire's borderlands, calm never lasted long. Fleets often moved through, patrols swept in great circles, and outposts watched for smugglers or raiders. On this day, however, something appeared that none of the watchers had ever seen before. It was a single ship. Large, dark, and silent, it slid out of the void as if it had always been there. Its name was Resolute, and it flew no imperial banner. To the soldiers on the outpost station Cora 7, its design was strange. The hull looked older, less polished than the shining warships of the Empire. Some laughed when the first scans came in. Primitive, one officer said. Where did this old relic come from? But when the sensors pushed deeper, the laughter began to fade. The readings made no sense. The energy signature was not like any they knew. It pulsed with quiet strength, like a storm behind closed doors. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Daniel stood tall and calm. His ship had traveled far, past the edge of human colonies, and now rested inside the Empire's own guarded space. Around him, his crew watched their screens with steady hands. They knew what this meant. "We have their attention," Daniel said in a low voice. His second officer, a woman named Lena, glanced at him with concern. "They will not like this, Captain. They will see us as a challenge." Daniel nodded. "They already see us as less than what we are. This is the only way to show them the truth." Out in the dark, the Empire's first patrol ships closed in. Sleek cruisers, sharp like blades, they moved in a tight formation. The patrol leader, Commander Vanya, sent a wideband message toward the strange ship. Her voice was firm and commanding. "Unknown vessel, you are trespassing in the space of the Galactic Empire. Power down your engines and prepare for inspection." On the Resolute, the crew waited for Daniel's answer. He stepped closer to the console and pressed the transmit key. His voice carried no anger, no fear, only quiet strength. "This is the human ship Resolute. We come in peace, but we will defend ourselves if threatened." The patrol ships laughed at the words. To them, humans were no more than a distant people, wild and unorganized. They believed their empire stretched farther and stronger than any other. A single human ship was nothing but a curiosity. Commander Vanya ordered her fleet to maintain a circle around the intruder. At the same time, far away on the capital world of the sector, reports began flowing in. The council chamber buzzed as officers and senators read the data. "A human ship," one senator asked in disbelief. "How did they bring it here, past all our borders?" No one had an answer. Some argued it was a mistake. Others thought it was a test by another rival power. But Myra, a young officer working in the chamber, studied the data carefully. She noticed what others ignored. The energy core of the ship was not only active, it was powerful in ways the Empire did not fully understand. "This is no mistake," Myra whispered to herself. "They came here for a reason." Meanwhile, the Resolute held position. The black of space pressed against its hull, but the ship stood like a mountain against the wind. Captain Daniel gave no order to retreat. He wanted the Empire to see. He wanted them to know humans could reach them whenever they wished. The patrol ships kept their distance, their weapons ready but not fired. The standoff grew tense. Inside their ships, Imperial crews waited for the order to attack, certain that their strength would crush the lone intruder in minutes. They whispered among themselves, mocking the old-looking vessel, not knowing what it truly carried. Back on the Resolute, Lena asked softly, "Do you think they will fire?" Captain Daniel looked at the screen showing the Imperial fleet circling them. His eyes were steady. "They might. But if they do, they will learn. And they will not forget." The stars burned on, silent witnesses to the meeting of two powers. The humans had stepped into the Empire's domain, and the first spark had been lit. Neither side yet knew what would follow, but already, a quiet tremor of fear began to spread. For the first time in generations, the Galactic Empire wondered if its borders were truly safe. The patrol fleet surrounded the human ship like hawks circling prey. To the Empire, it was only a matter of time before the intruder was crushed. But to Captain Daniel and his crew, the moment felt like standing at the edge of history. Inside the Resolute, the hum of the engines filled the bridge with steady rhythm. Every officer sat at their post, hands tight on controls, eyes sharp on the screens. The ship did not shake, did not flinch, though weapons aimed at them from every side. "They are scanning us again," Lena reported. Her voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed unease. "Their systems are searching for weaknesses." Daniel gave a small nod. "Let them look. They will not understand what they see." On the lead Imperial cruiser, Commander Vanya studied the readings with growing confusion. The ship in front of her should not have been able to stand against her fleet. Its armor looked heavy, its shape old-fashioned, and yet the energy core inside it pulsed with something beyond her knowledge. "Report," Vanya demanded. One of her officers stammered. "Commander, the readings shift every second. It is like their systems hide themselves. We cannot lock on completely." Vanya narrowed her eyes. "They are trying to trick us. Do not fall for it." But a younger officer at her side, Myra, spoke carefully. "Commander, I do not think it is a trick. This ship's design is different. It is not weak. We should not underestimate it." Her words were brushed aside. In the Empire, fear was hidden behind pride, and pride demanded strength. Vanya opened a channel again. Her voice cut across the void. "Human vessel, this is your final warning. You will power down your engines and submit to Imperial command. If you refuse, we will open fire." On the Resolute, Daniel stood tall as the message played. His crew turned their eyes to him, waiting for his reply. He pressed the comm key slowly, his tone steady as stone. "This is Captain Daniel of the human ship Resolute. We are not here to fight, but we will not surrender. Do not test us." The words carried no anger, no arrogance, but the weight behind them was enough to stir unease in Myra's chest. She had never heard a human speak with such certainty. For the first time, she wondered if all the Empire's lessons about human weakness were wrong. The Imperial fleet shifted, engines glowing brighter, weapons adjusting their aim. The void grew tense, like a string pulled too tight. On the bridge of the Resolute, the crew prepared silently. Shields glowed faint blue, weapons charged, though Daniel had given no order to fire. He stood with arms folded, watching. "Do you think they will attack?" Captain Lena asked. "They will," Daniel answered. "It is their nature to prove their strength. But we will show them ours." Back on the Imperial cruiser, the order to fire was moments away. Vanya raised her hand, ready to strike. Yet Myra could not hold her voice back. "Commander, wait," she said quickly. "If this ship resists, we may suffer great loss. Should we not first learn what they want?" Vanya glared at her. "Are you suggesting fear?" "No," Myra said, swallowing hard. "I am suggesting caution. We do not know them as well as we think we do. But the Empire rarely listened to doubt." Vanya gave the order. Across the fleet, weapons charged. Turrets turned, missiles armed, and the void lit up with power ready to launch. For a heartbeat, silence stretched between the two sides. Inside the Resolute, alarms blinked red. The crew braced themselves. Lena whispered, "It begins." Yet Daniel remained calm. He gave a single command, quiet but firm. "Hold your fire. Let them take the first step. Then we will answer." The choice was made. Humanity would not strike first, but they would not bow either. As the fleet prepared, Myra's heart pounded. She felt the coming storm, and deep inside, a strange thought grew. What if the humans were not the prey, but the hunters who had finally stepped into the open, the tension held like fire waiting for air. The Galactic Empire believed victory was certain. The human captain believed truth was about to be shown. And in the space between them, the first shot had yet to fall. The first Imperial cruiser opened fire, its cannons blazing across the void. Beams of energy cut through the dark, striking the human battleship with thunderous force. A storm of weapons followed, dozens of cruisers unleashing their fire in perfect Imperial formation. The black emptiness turned into a field of fire and light, as if the stars themselves had exploded. Inside the Resolute, the bridge shook lightly, though not nearly as much as expected. Red warning lights flashed across the panels, but the shields held. Shields at 95%, Lena reported with calm precision. Her eyes widened for a second before settling back into focus. They expected us to break, but the armor is barely scratched. Daniel stood tall, his gaze steady on the screen showing the Imperial fleet's formation. Good. Let them see their strength cannot pierce us. Outside, the battle grew louder. The Empire's firepower was unmatched by most civilizations, but the Resolute was no ordinary vessel. Its hull had been built with layers of dense alloys, its shield drawn from advanced human science that the Empire had never faced before. For every hit it took, the ship seemed to grow stronger in the eyes of its crew. On the Imperial flagship, Commander Vanya frowned as she watched the readings. Direct hits across their hull, an officer reported. But, Commander, their shields remain at high levels. The damage is far below expectations. That is not possible, Vanya said sharply. No ship can endure this much firepower. Increase the attack. Do not stop until the intruder is gone. Yet Myra's eyes remained fixed on the enemy ship. She saw the way the Resolute stood unshaken against the storm. A thought rose in her mind that she dared not speak aloud. What if we are not the hunters here? The Resolute finally stirred. Captain Daniel raised one hand, calm but firm. Target the lead cruiser. One shot only. Show them who we are. The gunners obeyed, hands sliding across glowing panels. The forward cannon of the Resolute charged with a deep hum that echoed through the hull. A bright light built at the front of the ship, a spear of energy gathering with quiet promise. Then it fired. The single blast tore across the void faster than eyes could follow. It struck the lead Imperial cruiser directly in the center, ripping through its shields as if they were glass. The explosion bloomed, vast and sudden, lighting the dark with fire. The cruiser, proud and strong, was gone in an instant. The rest of the fleet froze. The battle paused as disbelief spread like a wave. On the Imperial flagship, silence fell. Officers stared at their screens, unable to speak. Myra's hand trembled as she whispered, "One shot." "Just one shot," Commander Vanya slammed her fist against the console. "Do not falter. They are only one ship. Surround them. Crush them." But her voice could not mask the fear in her eyes. Back on the Resolute, the bridge filled with a quiet satisfaction. The crew did not cheer, for this was not a game, not a victory to celebrate. They knew this was only the beginning. "They understand now," Lena said softly. "Not enough," Daniel replied. His voice was calm, his eyes unblinking as he watched the panicked fleet. "They believe numbers make them safe. They believe pride makes them invincible. We will teach them differently." The Imperial fleet moved again, but slower, less certain. Ships began to spread out, no longer pressing too close to the human vessel. Their tight formation had broken, replaced by hesitation. Myra's thoughts spun as she studied the readings. The humans were not only strong. They were controlled. They could have fired more, destroyed more, yet they held back. That restraint was more frightening than their weapon. "They do not want war," Myra whispered to herself. "But if we give them war, we will lose." Her voice was too quiet for anyone else to hear. The space between fleets remained filled with tension. Smoke and broken metal drifted where the lead cruiser once stood, a reminder to all who watched. Across the Empire's channels, whispers grew among the crews. Some asked how such a ship had come so far. Others wondered how many more like it existed beyond the human border. The Emperor's fleets had never known fear like this. But now, in the heart of their strength, fear had taken root. Inside the Resolute, Daniel turned to his crew. They will remember this day. But we cannot stop yet. We must hold our ground until they learn the truth. The hum of the engines filled the silence once more. The Resolute floated calm and steady, while the proud fleets of the Empire hesitated around it. The clash was not only of firepower, but of belief. The Empire had believed humans were weak. That belief was already breaking. And in the stillness that followed, every soldier, every officer, and every leader of the Empire began to ask themselves the same question. What happens if more of these human ships arrive? The wreckage of the destroyed cruiser still drifted in the void. Fire and smoke floated through space, slowly fading into silence. The Imperial fleet, once so proud and sharp in its formation, now stood broken and uncertain. They had expected victory in minutes, but one human shot had shaken their belief. On the Resolute, Captain Daniel stood calm at the center of his bridge. His crew watched their screens with steady focus. No one celebrated. Their purpose was not destruction but warning. Daniel knew the Empire needed to understand without question that humans were not to be treated as weak. Status, Daniel said. Shields steady. Weapons charged, Lena answered. Her voice carried both relief and tension. They are keeping their distance now. Daniel nodded. Good. Let them choose what comes next. Across the Imperial fleet, fear spread like a shadow. Officers whispered to one another. Some asked if the humans had more ships hidden in the dark. Others wondered if this single vessel had been sent only as a message. For the first time in years, the Empire's soldiers felt doubt. On the flagship, Commander Vanya tried to control her crew. She barked orders to hold formation, to prepare for another strike, but even her own voice lacked its former certainty. The loss of the cruiser echoed in her mind. It had not been a long battle. It had been one shot. Myra stood near her station, eyes locked on the strange human vessel. The more she studied it, the more unsettled she became. Its energy signatures were not just powerful, they were stable, controlled, refined. This was not the weapon of a desperate people. This was the strength of a people who knew exactly what they carried. They are not attacking, Myra said quietly. Vanya turned sharply. What did you say? They could fire again, but they are not. They wait. They are giving us a chance to stop. Her words drew silence across the bridge. Many of the officers did not want to admit it, but they felt the same. While the fleet hesitated, reports began to spread back to the Empire's central worlds. On the capital planet, the High Council gathered in the Great Chamber. Senators, admirals, and ministers crowded the floor, their voices loud with fear and confusion. How did a human ship pass our borders? One demanded. Why was it not stopped before reaching our heartlands? Another shouted. Accusations flew like arrows. Some blamed the border fleets. Others blamed spies. A few even suggested the humans had received secret help from rivals. Yet the truth remained simple and frightening, the humans had come on their own. At the edge of the chamber, young officer Myra's report played on a large screen. Her calm words carried across the council, the human vessel Resolute is heavily armed and highly protected. It resists our full fleet fire. It has destroyed one of our cruisers with a single strike. Gasps filled the room. Senators leaned forward, unable to believe. They cannot be this strong, one whispered. But they could. The Emperor himself, seated high above the council floor, leaned forward with narrowed eyes. His voice cut through the noise. Who let a human battleship get this close? No one answered. Silence filled the chamber. For all their power, For all their pride, none had the courage to speak. Meanwhile, back at the standoff, the Imperial fleet kept its circle around the Resolute. Weapons stayed hot but no one moved. The proud officers who once laughed at humans now waited with nervous eyes. On the Resolute, Daniel received another message. The Empire's fleet was demanding again that he surrender. He read the words, then closed the screen without replying. They still think pride is strength, Daniel said. His voice was steady but heavy with meaning. But pride without truth is weakness. Lena asked softly, "Will we stay here, Captain?" "We will," Daniel answered. "The longer we hold, the more they will learn. This ship is not just for us, it is for every human world. They must know we can reach the Empire's heart." For the first time, Lena allowed a faint smile. Then they will never again see us as shadows on the edge of their maps. The Empire had always believed humanity was small, scattered, unworthy of respect. But now, the sight of one ship holding against their might was enough to shake their faith. Across the fleets, across the council, and across the capital itself, fear began to spread. The humans had crossed the border. The humans had stood against the Empire. And the humans had not broken. The Resolute did not fire again. It simply moved forward. Slow and steady, the massive ship pressed deeper into Imperial space. Each burn of its engines echoed like a warning through the void. On the bridge of the Imperial flagship, Commander Vanya gripped her chair tightly. The human ship should have been destroyed long ago, yet it pushed past her entire fleet as if they were nothing but shadows. "They are advancing," an officer said in a low voice. "Do we block their path?" Vanya's eyes burned with anger, but she could not hide the fear in her voice. "If we attack again, we may lose more ships. If we do nothing, they will move deeper." The crew hesitated. Pride told them to fight. Fear told them to stay still. Myra, standing at her station, spoke carefully. "Commander, we cannot stop them. Not with this fleet. If we press harder, they will destroy us one by one. This is not a battle we can win." Her words echoed the fear already in the hearts of many. Vanya wanted to shout her down, but even she felt the truth. Meanwhile, on the Resolute, Captain Daniel stood calm at the center of his bridge. His eyes followed the scattered Imperial ships as they pulled back slowly, giving him space. His voice carried firm resolve. "Steady course. Do not raise weapons unless they fire again." Lena looked at him with quiet respect. "They are falling back, Captain. They fear us." Daniel shook his head. "Not fear. They are beginning to understand. But they are not ready to admit it yet." Across the Empire, messages flew at the speed of light. The destruction of the cruiser and the advance of the human battleship reached every major command post. Admirals argued in secure chambers, ministers demanded answers, and civilians whispered in the streets. "How can one ship cause such trouble?" some asked. But those who read the reports closely knew it was not just one ship. It was what that ship represented. The Emperor himself sat in his great hall, listening to his council. His voice cut through their noise once more. "If this is one human ship," he said, "then where are the others?" No one dared answer. The possibility that dozens or hundreds of such ships existed filled the chamber with cold silence. Back in the border system, the Resolute pressed onward until the Imperial fleet pulled back entirely. The path ahead was open. The human ship slowed, stopping above a small border world. Its shadow stretched across the planet's surface, and its presence alone sent waves of alarm through the colony below. On the Imperial flagship, officers looked at one another with pale faces. Vanya struggled to hold her pride, but even she could not deny what had happened. "They passed us," she whispered, as if admitting defeat. Myra, watching the human ship, felt something deeper than fear. She felt respect. This was not recklessness. This was purpose. "They are not here to destroy," she said softly. They are here to show us a line. Her commander did not reply. On the Resolute, Daniel knew the truth as well. His voice carried across the bridge. We did not come to conquer. We came to remind them that humanity cannot be ignored. We came to show them that the border between us and them is not theirs alone to decide. The crew listened in silence. They understood the meaning. This mission was not just for the Empire's eyes. It was for every human world that had been looked down upon, treated as small, or ignored. The Empire would no longer see humans as shadows. The fleet of the Empire lingered in the distance, unwilling to come closer. They watched as the Resolute stood firm above the planet, unshaken, unchallenged. In the cities of the Empire, whispers turned into fear. Traders spread the story faster than any fleet could fly. A human battleship entered the Empire's heart, they said. The fleets could not stop it. In the High Council chambers, officials argued endlessly. Some demanded new weapons, some demanded peace, and others demanded the capture of more humans to study their secrets. But underneath all the shouting, one truth remained: the humans had stepped into the Empire's home, and the Empire had done nothing to stop them. On the border world below, citizens looked up at the night sky and saw the shadow of the strange ship. They whispered to each other with awe and fear. Some even wondered if the future belonged not to the Empire, but to these humans who carried such quiet power. The Resolute stood as a symbol. It did not fire again, it did not destroy more ships, yet its presence alone was enough to shake an empire. And far away, in every corner of Imperial space, the question grew louder with each passing hour. If one human battleship can do this, what will happen when more arrive? The Imperial fleet had pulled back to the outer system. Their pride was wounded, and fear now ran quietly through the ranks. For the first time in generations, officers questioned what it meant to face humans. Myra stood on the bridge of her ship, her eyes locked on the distant shadow of the Resolute. She had made a decision. If she stayed silent, the Empire might continue to underestimate the humans, risking more lives and more fleets. She requested permission to approach the human ship in a small shuttle, and her superiors, nervous and uncertain, reluctantly allowed it. Inside the shuttle, Myra's heart beat fast. She had never met a human before. All she knew came from reports and assumptions. Yet as she flew closer, the sheer calm of the Resolute struck her. It hovered quietly above the border world, shields glowing faintly, engines steady, yet it radiated strength. When she docked, the hatch opened smoothly. Daniel and his crew waited for her, standing calmly in the bay. His presence was steady, his eyes clear. Myra felt both fear and awe. "Captain Daniel," she said, stepping forward. I need to understand. Why are you here? Why come so close to our home and show such strength?" Daniel's voice was soft but firm. "We are here to warn, not to attack. Humanity has been underestimated for too long. We come to remind the galaxy that we are not weak. That we are not shadows at the edge of space." Myra listened, trying to absorb the words. She thought of the fleets she had commanded, the cruisers destroyed, the fear that had spread like wildfire through the Empire. It was more than the strength of one ship. It was the truth of an entire people. "You destroyed one of our cruisers," she said carefully. "And yet you did not attack again." Why? Daniel stepped closer. "Because this is not war. We do not strike first unless necessary. Our strength is a warning. The Empire has pushed too far into human space, and this is how we remind you of the line you must not cross." Myra felt a chill. One ship had shown more control and power than entire fleets she had commanded. And they had done it without anger, without cruelty, without hatred. "Why show us, and not more of your fleet?" she asked. "Because one is enough," Daniel replied. "One is enough to prove that humans can reach anywhere, and one is enough to show that restraint is our choice. The Empire must decide how to respond." You must understand that humans will not be underestimated again. Myra thought of her officers and the council back home. They had laughed at the human ship, certain it would be destroyed within minutes. Yet here she was, standing before a captain who had shattered their pride and taught them a lesson without firing more than one shot. She realized something important. The humans did not need warships everywhere to command respect. Strength combined with control was more powerful than fleets and armies. You are, unlike anything we imagined, she whispered. Your people, you are more than we believed. Daniel nodded. We are many things, but we are not invincible. We are, however, determined. Humanity survives, humanity adapts, and humanity fights when forced. This is all the Empire needs to know. Myra's mind raced. The Council would want to capture him, study him, destroy him. Yet here was the truth, no study could replicate the courage, control, and purpose of the humans. One ship, one captain, had done what thousands of ships might have failed to do. She stepped back, bowing slightly. I see now. The Empire has underestimated humans for too long. I will report what I have seen. Perhaps there is still time to avoid more loss. Daniel nodded once. You may go. Remember our words, and remember this day. Humanity does not threaten unless pushed. But when we are pushed, we are unstoppable. Myra returned to her shuttle, her mind filled with the quiet awe of what she had witnessed. The Empire's pride had been shaken. Their fleets had faltered. And yet the humans had given them a lesson without firing another shot. Back in the council chambers, Myra's report stunned the leaders. Her words carried both caution and respect for the humans. This is not speculation, she said. This is what I saw. One human ship moved through our fleets and demonstrated a power we cannot ignore. They gave us warning. We must listen. Some officials still argued, insisting that the humans were exaggerating. Others began to plan differently, recognizing that the galaxy had changed. And in the void above the border world, the Resolute prepared to leave. Its mission was complete. Its presence had spoken louder than any fleet, any weapon, any army. The humans had shown the Empire their truth, that one ship, one crew, and one people could make the galaxy tremble simply by existing and acting with purpose. Myra looked up as the Resolute turned, engines glowing softly. She whispered to herself, the Empire must never forget this lesson. And far away, Daniel's voice carried quietly to his crew, full of pride but calm. This is only the beginning. They now know humanity is not to be ignored. The galaxy will remember this day. The Resolute turned away from the border world, engines glowing softly as it moved back toward human space. Its mission was complete. One ship had entered the heart of the Galactic Empire, faced its fleets, and left a lasting impression that no report could fully describe. On the Imperial flagship, Commander Vania watched the retreating human ship. The pride she had always carried now weighed heavily on her shoulders. Her officers were quiet, each lost in thought. Even the bravest whispered of the lesson the humans had given them without fighting. Myra stood at her station, her eyes following the Resolute until it was a small dot among the stars. She felt a strange mixture of relief and awe. For the first time, she understood what it meant to respect humans. They were strong, controlled, and determined, and their power came not only from weapons but from their will. In the council chambers of the Empire, news of the human ship's advance and withdrawal spread quickly. Senators, ministers, and officers argued fiercely. Some demanded retaliation, claiming the humans had shown arrogance. Others urged caution, realizing that attacking could lead to disaster. Myra spoke carefully before the council. The humans did not attack. They did not harm more of our fleets. They have shown us their power, and more importantly, they have shown us restraint. This is a warning. If we ignore it, we will suffer greater loss. Her words caused silence. The leaders had not expected honesty from a young officer. Her report was clear, direct, and impossible to ignore. Slowly, many began to understand what she meant. The humans were not just another species to be conquered or controlled. They were something entirely different. Back in space, the Resolute glided through the stars. Daniel stood at the bridge, looking at the vast darkness ahead. The mission had been more than a demonstration of power, it had been a message. Humanity would no longer be underestimated. The galaxy had learned that one human could make even the mightiest empire pause. Lena stepped beside him. "Do you think they will remember this day?" Daniel smiled slightly, a calm and quiet smile. "They will. Humans do not need to strike every battle to be feared. Sometimes, showing who we are is enough." Across the Empire, fleets adjusted their strategies. Officers planned differently, considering humans as equals, not threats to ignore. The whispers that began with fear grew into careful respect. Myra continued to share her account, and slowly, more began to see the truth: humanity was not to be challenged lightly. In the Imperial capital, the Emperor watched reports of the human ship's retreat. His expression was unreadable, but his advisors noticed the tension in his jaw. For centuries, the Empire had ruled with confidence, believing no one could challenge their power. One ship had shattered that belief. "Prepare new fleets," an advisor said nervously. "We must be ready if they return." The Emperor shook his head slightly. "No. We must learn first. Strength without understanding can lead to ruin. The humans have shown restraint and power together. We will not act rashly again." Myra felt a sense of hope and fear. The Empire could recover from this, but the lesson was clear. The humans had crossed their borders, faced their fleets, and left without a fight. That was a power no fleet alone could achieve. Meanwhile, the humans of the Resolute's home world celebrated quietly. One ship had returned from a dangerous mission, but it had done more than survive. It had proven humanity's place in the galaxy. The message was simple and clear: humans were strong, disciplined, and prepared to defend themselves whenever necessary. As the Resolute reached the edge of human space, Daniel looked back at the stars, knowing the Empire had seen enough to remember. Their fleets would never again assume humans were weak. Their councils would debate and plan differently. Their leaders would speak cautiously about humanity. Myra looked up at the night sky from the Empire's border world, her eyes following the trail the human ship had left. She whispered to herself, "We underestimated them for too long. The galaxy must remember this." The stars were quiet once more. The Empire had learned a lesson that could not be erased. Humanity had shown its strength not through endless war, but through courage, control, and purpose. One ship, one crew, had reminded an entire empire that humans were not shadows to ignore. And somewhere in the void, the Resolute continued its journey, steady, calm, and unbroken. The galaxy would never forget the day a single human battleship reached the heart of the Empire and changed the way everyone would see humans forever. The Empire had survived the encounter, but its pride had been humbled. Humanity had won respect without firing another shot. Across the stars, one message would echo for generations: do not fight the humans. You will not win.